Okay, so please, if you wanna just share some comments, some inputs. If you have any question, just feel free to interrupt me and raise your hand. If I don't see you, just jump in. No worries with that. Thank you. So today's section is related to gender and intersectionality, but as we are within our Wild One project, we will focus mostly also on the link to menstrual health. So, sorry, I have to okay, because I see you, I don't see the screen. Okay. Okay, so what we, okay, thank you. By the end of this workshop, we will be able to define intersectionality and its relevance in global menstrual health and gender justice, analyze how these overlapping identities shape menstrual experiences and access, identify systemic barriers affecting menstrual equity for marginalized groups, explore practical tools to apply intersectional thinking in advocacy and education, and use intersectional approaches to analyze real or professional case studies promoting menstrual sovereignty. So we will go through mostly like 4 thematic areas. The first one, we will explore key concept and how intersecting identities influence gender and menstrual health worldwide. In the second thematic session, which will be more related to the global framework, so we will analyze international standards and policies that address gender, health, and bodily autonomy through an intersectional lens. Then we will go through thematic sections more related to intersecting identities and menstrual experiences. So we will analyze the way in which social, cultural, and economic factors shape diverse menstrual realities across context. And then we will discuss a bit about strategies to integrate intersectional approaches into menstrual health advocacy and program design. I would like to start with you. So I don't know if you all know Mentimeter. Mentimeter is just like an application that it's mainly used in this kind of online workshop, that it's useful to share common thoughts and work a bit together. So if you can go on mentimeter.com and one moment, and with this, okay, with this code 51185535, and you will have a couple of minutes, or maybe also more if you need, to answer to this question. What do we know about intersectionality? Just like a sentence or a thought, a comment on that. I will share the, okay. And once you answer, we should be able to see all your answer on the screen. Please let me know if you have any.
Links? Sorry, can you share the link on the
Yes.
chat, maybe? Thank you. Oh, maybe it was already there. Thank you.
I see that maybe Paola, you shared, right? I saw centimeter. Okay, it's there. Okay, I don't know if anyone is missing, but I think we can start with the discussion. I was reading, and I think these are all very precise and correct answers. I don't know if someone of you, if someone of you would like maybe to read this answer and make some comment on it. If not, we just go ahead with the presentation. But if you would like to share your answer, of course, you are more than welcome.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't see you. So if I think someone was was
Yeah, I
was
said I
speaking.
can, but Hande was first, I think. Hande.
Okay, sorry, because I just don't see now
No, no,
anyone,
no,
so just
sure,
go
of
ahead.
course. Yeah.
So you ask what is intersectionality? Yes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
According to me, theoretically, everyone in the world, everybody is equal. They have the same rights, but in practice, it is not.
yeah, definitely. Someone else would like to add something on that?
Intersectionality is like how different identities in a person, for example, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, geographical location, religion, the first language spoken, the economical situation, how all these different aspects are intertwined and interact between each other, and thus create more privilege or more discrimination and oppression in a person. And yeah, basically, I think.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. I think these are all very precise answers. And so, one moment. Okay. So it's exactly what you wrote and what you said. So just going through the origins of the concept, this was the concept was created by Kimberly Crenshaw, and she is a civil rights activist and scholar from the United States, and she introduced the concept in 1989. Intersectionality, in fact, as you already mentioned, describes how overlapping identities, for example, gender, race, class, but not only, create interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. The concept emerged from her analysis of legal cases where Black women experience discrimination not only because of their being women, but also as Black individuals, and the combination of both create a unique combination of discrimination that cannot be addressed only because on the separate characteristics. And what is really important about this concept is that intersectionality is not just about identity, but it's about structures of power. And this is a very important concept to take in mind, and how this power shape access to rights and opportunities, for example, colonialism, racism, patriarchy. So this is very important concept that Kimberly Crenshaw introduced. This is just like a way of representing intersectionality. So as we were saying, I mean, the list is not exhaustive, but it's already something. We have different dimensions that every single person can, I mean, have. And for example, because of the religion, age, geographical location, as we were saying, so we know that maybe a woman, maybe a lesbian woman, a Black lesbian woman in Europe, for example, could face more discrimination that, for example, a white woman. Yeah, so the way these different dimension interconnect can shape the disequality, the discrimination, and also from the other side, let's say the power, the dimension of power that another person could live. Just another very short answer on Mentimeter, please. I would like to know from you, how do you think that the concept of intersectionality is connected to menstrual sovereignty? So it's always the same link. I just shared the, where is? I just shared the second slide. Another just couple of minutes for this answer. Please let me know if the question is not clear. maybe while someone is still reflecting on the answer, someone else would like to read and comment the answer they have given.
And I think you should go because I don't know if Serena can see us.
No, I don't see you. So please, if you're raising your hand, just go.
Okay, may I say something related
Yes,
to your
please.
question? Okay. According to me, not all women all around the world experience menstruation in the same way. First,
Definitely.
for example, there are some lack of facilities like inaccessible bathrooms, sanitary napkins, and maybe they need some medication because some women unfortunately experience menstruation. Some women have need medication, but they can't access these facilities. These are my opinion related to your question.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. Someone else would like to add some comments on that, and then we can go ahead.
Yeah, I can add something, and it was totally right. And especially also it depends on the geographical location in the global south. People have different possibilities due also to the economical situation and everything. But also I would like to say that, well, not all women are able to menstruate, not only women menstruate, and therefore here comes intersectionality, where there are non-binary people, trans men, different identities that menstruate. It is interconnected because menstrual sovereignty means having full autonomy, dignity over one's body, menstruating body. And of course, it connects with intersectionality because there are different aspects of personal identities that make ourselves more target of oppression and discrimination depending on how the identity of oneself is made of.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments, both of your comments and all the answers that you have given. Actually, it is completely true what you're saying. No, not everyone experience menstruation in the same way. Not everyone menstruate, and that is why it's not just a biological issue that we are discussing, but it's really a social, political, and intersectional issue. And it's very important to understand this and to address the topic in taking in mind this, because we are not just speaking about biology. So I don't know if there are other comments on that. If not, I can just go ahead. But please, if you have any other comments, just feel free to share. Okay, I go ahead with the presentation. So, well, this is just a recap of the definition that we said. So we have just to repeat, but intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorization such as race, gender, and class, creating overlapping systems of oppression. How this intersectionality impact on menstrual health? As I was saying, and you were also saying, we are not just discussing about a biological or medical condition, but also a social and political and intersectional issue that is shaped by the interplay of gender, culture, class, race, ability, and identity, and not only actually. So if we understanding menstruation through this intersectional lens helps us reveal the inequalities in access, stigma, and agency across different groups. Someone was also mentioning, for example, the geographical conditions. This is also, it is very different the way in which people live their menstrual period in different sides of the world, in different countries, and also, as we were saying, in the same countries with different with different with this overlapping of different systems. So let's say some few words on these 3 dimensions. So starting with the social dimension, as we were saying, menstrual health is influenced by societal norms, by taboos and expectations. So in many contexts, menstruation is stigmatized, for example, and this leads people to shame, silence, and exclusion also from education, work, or community life. Access to information and products also often depends on the socioeconomic status, education, and geographical location. So we have been mentioning these 3 dimensions, but just let's go a bit more deep on that. In fact, in many low-income communities, families cannot afford menstrual products, but also in high-income countries, period poverty persists. And then we were also discussing, while going in the political dimension, for example, the tampon tax and other fiscal policies that also affect these dimensions. And for example, also going to the educational educational dimension within the social dimension, in schools where menstrual health education is limited or absent, young people may start menstruating without also understanding many times what is happening to their own body, and this increase also this shame, fear, and misinformation, and the stigma around the person. And in some conservative contexts, for example, teachers or health educators are more uncomfortable discussing these topics, and this also perpetuate the silence and the stigma. And as we were saying, also the geographical location is very important because, for example, in remote areas, access to affordable menstrual products can be limited. And also let's think, for example, about humanitarian settings or refugee camps where menstrual hygiene management is often overlooked in sanitation planning, and this creates also other discrimination, disadvantage for the people, the people that are living in these conditions. Going through the political dimension, government policies can promote or hinder menstrual equity. So for instance, menstrual leave policies in countries like, for example, Japan, South Korea, recognize menstruation as a legitimate health matter, allowing individuals to take paid or unpaid leave. But however, also these policies are still very rare, actually, and sometimes are also stigmatizing if they are not accompanied by broader awareness. I was mentioning before, for example, the so-called tampon tax, which is like the taxation on menstrual products as luxury goods. And this also illustrates how gender bias can be embedded in fiscal systems. There are several countries, for example, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, I know that also Spain recently abolished or reduced this tax, but many times menstrual health is still treated as a privilege and not as a human rights issue, which would be very important, I mean. And also the power and the power structure and the way it's represented enters in the political dimension, because, for example, decisions about menstrual policies often reflects who holds the power in political and institutional spaces. And when policymakers are predominantly male, or when menstrual health is dismissed as just a women's issue, then of course the needs of menstruating individuals are often ignored in public health and education agendas. And this exclusion, of course, perpetuates gender and class inequalities. Going to the third dimension that I'm willing to discuss with you today, the intersectional one, as we were saying before, and I think Alice was mentioning that, or maybe was also Hande, not everyone experiences menstruation in the same way. So it's not just being a universal biological process, but the experience is really far from universal. So it's very personal, and it depends on many factors, we are saying. So access to products, education, privacy, and healthcare varies enormously across regions and and groups and different groups. And this approach, I mean, using an intersectional approach prevents us from treating like women and girls as a homogeneous category, and instead we need to highlight the diversity of menstruating bodies and experiences. So we were already having like some example of that, but as I was saying, like refugee women in a shelter or in a refugee camp may struggle to access menstrual products or also just facing language barriers in healthcare or experiencing cultural stigma that make it hard to seek support. Or, for example, a trans or non-binary person in an urban setting also may have access to products but face social stigma and exclusion from gendered bathrooms or psychological distress due to invisibility in menstrual health campaigns and education. So each of these examples show us that menstrual equity require a real context-sensitive and inclusive approach, because like the one-size-fits-all solution doesn't work in this case. I would like now to go to the second thematic session, more related to the global frameworks. I mean, there are many, but just let's give some example of them. Please, again, I don't see you. So if you have any comments, any question, any thoughts that you would like to share, just jump in. We can sorry, I'm also a bit sick with my throat, as you can hear. So speaking about global frameworks, we have the SDGs, which are the Sustainable Development Goals. And for example, I don't know if all of you are familiar with this kind of system, but these are like 17 goals that the United Nations, given by the United Nations, that should be, say, achieved by 2030. And goals such as good health and well-being, which is the SDG 3, or quality education, gender equality, and clean water and sanitation are directly linked to menstrual equity, as they influence access to information, products, and safe facilities. So let's see a bit these global frameworks, the way they introduce some important concept, the way they address intersectionality, and also the way they are not taking into consideration these aspects. We have, for example, another important framework is like the CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And the CEDAW guarantees the rights to health, education, and equality for women and girls, but while providing a foundation for gender equity. For example, in this case, its application often overlooks intersecting identities such as race, disability, migration status, or gender diversity, leaving some groups underserved. We can look also at the UNFPA or HCHR framework, which is like the United Nations Population Fund and the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. And these frameworks can emphasize bodily autonomy, sexual and reproductive rights, and the recognition of menstrual health as a human right. They provide guidance for governments and organizations to adopt policies that respect dignity, inclusion, and equities. But even in this case, policies and frameworks often assume a homogeneous female experience, leaving marginalized groups undeserved. There are also many regional policies, such as the Maputo Protocol in Africa, or the EU Gender Action Plan, which address reproductive health and gender equality. But also in this case, they establish important standards, of course, but many times they don't integrate a full intersectional approach. So, for example, we were speaking about regional policies. Let's just give a very brief look in the way intersectionality is addressed or not in the European Union legislation. And I would say that it's already what I was saying before, like the European Union law has made strides in acknowledging multiple grounds of discrimination, but it often lacks an integrated approach to intersectionality. And so the current frameworks tend to treat the discrimination as separate categories, like gender versus race, for example, but this can create even more marginalization from some individuals. And there is the call for reform, which advocate for recognizing compound discrimination. We will go now through also this concept explicitly in legal text to ensure holistic protection. In the European Union, these are some important directives, like for example, the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights, which prohibits discrimination on various grounds, including gender, race, ethnicity, disability, age, and sexual orientation. We have also the Racial Equality Directive on the Employment Equality Directive, which aim to combat discrimination, but also in this case, they often address grounds of discrimination in isolation, limiting their intersectional scope. So it remains a gap in comprehensively addressing how multiple forms of discrimination interact. What I would like to stress as a key takeaways of these few first slides is like that global frameworks provide a foundation, which is very important, of course, but without intersectionality, exclusion persists. Intersectional lens ensure policies address diverse bodies, identities, and barriers, and promotes inclusive, equitable, and rights-based approach to menstrual health. So, I mean, as we were already saying, menstrual sovereignty requires policies that see beyond gender alone. And this is just like an example of a case of the European Court of Human Rights. And actually, this has been like a good example where intersectionality has been taken into account is a case that happened in Slovakia in 2012. So this case involved the forced sterilization of Romani women in Slovakia without their informed consent. The applicants argued that they were subject to discrimination based not only on gender, but also on their ethnicity and social status, as well as a violation of their right to bodily integrity. And in this case, the European Court of Human Rights recognized that there was like a violation of the prohibition, of two main articles of the European Convention of Human Rights, Article 3 and Article 14, dedicated to the prohibition of inhuman and degrading treatment and the prohibition of discrimination. And the court also recognized, and this is an important fact, that the women face intersectional discrimination, showing how overlapping identities, in this case was gender, ethnicity, and social marginalization, created a unique human right risk. So I wanted to share some words on compound discrimination, which is a concept, something that is deeply related to intersectionality. And compound discrimination refers to a situation where an individual experiences discrimination based on two or more distinct grounds simultaneously, such as gender, race, age, disability, or sexual orientation. This type of discrimination involves the additive effects of multiple identities, leading to a more complex and intensified form of disadvantage. I mean, the concepts are very interrelated. It looks like almost the same, but it's not really the same, because compound discrimination looks really on these additive effects, while intersectionality approach show how this interconnection create a unique form of discrimination. So this is like the main difference, that intersectional discrimination focus on how these identities interact and produce another unique experience of discrimination, while compound discrimination looks at each type of discrimination that the person is facing. So three are the key characteristics of compound discrimination, which one is additive, as we were saying. So the different forms of discrimination stack on top of one another, leading to compounded harm. The distinct grounds, so each identity or characteristic contributes separately to the overall experience of discrimination. And the legal recognition that anti-discrimination law often fails to address these cases holistically, as it typically treats each ground of discrimination in isolation. There are any comments until now? So again, I don't see you. I feel a bit like isolated. So please, again, if you want to share anything, just jump in. If not, I go ahead with another small exercise. This is like, please go again on Mentimeter. It's just like to see the perception of all of us, because we have, of course, then different perception, as we're saying, also based on our personal background. So you will find on Mentimeter where we are here. We'll see on Mentimeter, I included different factors such as gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status and class, disability, migration, refugee status, religion, cultural norms, age, geographical location. Please just each of you, if you can choose, select up to 3 factors that you think most influence menstrual experiences in your community.
I don't know if it's just me, but it makes me select just one.
Just one?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I probably did something wrong, but okay, I'm not sure how to edit it now, so maybe just the one that you think it has more impact on your community. Okay, some answer is still missing, but I mean, of course, there is no correct answer in this case. No, I'm sorry, it's not really working as I was as I was expecting, but still, we can see what is interesting to see that even like in this in our today small group, like the perceptions are different, and they differ, of course, because of the different context we are living, the different background, the different the different life that we are living. So it's just to see the different perceptions. I think it's an interesting exercise. So going
Sorry,
ahead.
but I
See.
don't see the screen where you see all the different
No?
answers. Am I the only one?
Do you see it now?
No, same. I don't see it either.
No?
It will
Okay.
be nice to see all the answers, but
Yeah,
I
of
haven't
course.
seen
I
until
thought you
now.
were seeing them. One
No.
second. I share again the screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Do you see it? Yes? Okay. So we have one result for one answer for race and ethnicity, one other one for socioeconomic status and class, 3 about religion and cultural norms, and 2 related to geographical location. It's actually answers vary a lot, no? It's interesting. Okay. go ahead with the presentation. I don't know if you want to add something on these results or on your own perception, please feel free. Okay, if not, I go ahead and okay. Okay, going ahead, I mean, this exercise was just to see the different way intersecting identities also have an impact on our actually daily life, but also on menstrual experiences. So for example, as we were saying, race and ethnicity, one of these factors, and women and girls from racialized communities often face systemic discrimination in employment, for example, education, or also healthcare system, which directly affects their menstrual health and access to products. Class. Low-income individuals experience also barriers that amplify menstrual inequality, including lack of money for products, inadequate sanitation infrastructure, and limited access to menstrual education. For example, girls from economically disadvantaged households may also miss school or work, for example, during menstruation due to insufficient supplies or poor sanitation facilities. Disability also is a very important topic. People with disabilities face specific challenges managing menstruation, including inaccessible bathrooms, lack of adaptive products, and limited tailored healthcare or education. For example, so in this case, women with physical disabilities may rely on caregivers, and maybe they are not trained in this respect, no, in menstrual care, or encounter facilities that are not wheelchair accessible. I don't know in the place where you live, but for example, in Italy, in many restaurants, in many bars, just the bathrooms are not accessible for many people with disabilities. And the migration status, migrant, refugee, asylum seekers, women experience legal, social, and systemic barriers that affect menstrual hygiene and education. We have already been a bit discussing about that. So women in lower socioeconomic classes are less likely accessing menstrual education, healthcare, and hygiene products. And intersectional factors like race and migration status further limit these opportunities. Okay, for example, now let's go to the thematic section 4, that is more related to public policies, also and advocacy efforts in this sense. So these are three important aspects that we have to take into account, and the goal of this session is more to explore concrete strategies and also inspiring example, let's say best practices of how intersectional approaches can be integrated into menstrual health policies and advocacy efforts. So data collection analysis, for example, is very important because policies should be informed by disaggregated data that reflects the intersection of gender, race, class, and other factors. So collecting that data, for example, on access to menstrual education and products among migrant girls with disabilities or those living in low-income rural areas, this would inform, of course, in a useful way policies. And very important is also to have a participatory approach in policy design. So engage with marginalized groups in the development of policies to ensure that they address real needs and challenges. So for example, consulting with migrant or Roma women on education and health reforms. And this is what we were saying also before, a bit analyzing the political dimension, the fact that who is in power, and it changed the way our government shaped these policies. And it would be also important to allocate resources specifically targeting the needs of groups affected by multiple forms of discrimination. Let's see some successful example of intersectional policy initiatives. For example, the Free Period Products Act of 2021 in Scotland, which gave universal access to menstrual products in public spaces, and used also a gender-neutral language, for example, for saying for everyone who menstruates. So change also also language is very important in the way we address these topics. Another example is of 2019 in Kenya, the menstrual hygiene management policy. So this integrates menstrual health into education and wash infrastructure with a focus on rural and marginalized girls. Another example is the grassroots advocacy networks in India. So NGOs like the PET Project and would promote menstrual equity through community-based campaigns involving men and non-binary people. And there are also some European examples, some good practices in this sense, like initiatives in Spain and France, which address menstrual leave and tackling period poverty from homeless and migrant population. I don't know if some of you would like to add any other maybe interesting initiative or approach that has been knowing in his experience, in his work, in your work, in your experience in the country do you live or you have lived. So if you would like to add some example on that, please go ahead.
Well, in Cuba, there's an organization it called La Mina yeah. Cuba, and they received a donation from Germany, Canada, and well, I work with them as an activist, doing workshops and donating menstrual cups for people in need, for people from rural places, people with a low income, and yeah, that would be great if you could add.
Interesting. Thank you, Day. Does someone else would like to share some example?
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember in Spain, you could go and get your free menstruation underwear. That was really for me very amazing. Since I'm from the Netherlands, there is no way you get that for free. And they're pretty expensive, to be honest. So I thought that was amazing. However, thinking about it now, you needed to have your NIE, that is like your personal ID number from Spain, which I did not have. So I couldn't get mine for free, but I mean, I have the privilege that I could buy them. However, thinking about that now, it was not able for people that didn't have their identity, Spanish identity number to. So it's something that yeah, this workshop made me more aware about that initiative, which is amazing, but it did exclude
still some other discrimination.
It did exclude people definitely in Spain where there is a lot of immigrants, so who are already facing a lot of difficulties. So, but yeah, it had two sides, so that was an example of Spain.
Interesting. Thank you, Mom. Someone else? Okay, I share again the screen. Okay, we were here, sorry. Okay, these are just some examples of strategies that can help promote intersectional approaches, for example, through capacity building, so training policymakers, NGOs, and advocates on recognizing and addressing intersectionality in their work. Legislative advocacy for sure, so push for reforms, global and regional anti-discrimination directives to recognize intersectional discrimination, and also through public awareness campaigns. So using media and community engagement to highlight the impact of intersecting identities and promote inclusive policies. I would ask you another very quick Mentimeter exercise. So what makes menstrual health policies truly inclusive? In this case, just one word. We will have like a cloud of word. I will share now the screen with the Mentimeter, just like mentioning with one word, something that could make our policies more inclusive. I share again like the correct screen. Okay, just with one word.
May I say something
Yes, of course.
related to your question? I think dissemination.
I don't hear you.
Okay. I think dissemination
Dissemination?
of the policy. Yes, dissemination of the policies.
Yes.
Everybody
course.
should know the rights.
Yeah,
Your
definitely.
rights about the policies.
That's very important, of course. Yes. And for example, I mean, I was mentioning like awareness campaigns, and this could help in this sense, no? To try to disseminate as much as possible and to educate and raise awareness on the topic. Do you see the screen with all the answers this time?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting answers, thank you. So we have political will, awareness, accessibility, everyone who menstruates, include groups affected, education, equity, intersectionality, and honoring the wild. So thank you. Thank you for all these inputs. And going ahead, in addition to what you have mentioned on Mentimeter, what you have been writing, these are other core principles of intersectional policy making. So participation, as we were saying, also engaging with diverse stakeholders, especially those directly affected. Representation, include marginalized voices in decision-making bodies. Accountability, establish monitoring systems for inclusion outcomes. Data justice, collect and use data disaggregated by gender, age, disability, migration status, etc. And language, use an inclusive, non-stigmatizing communication. So for example, people who menstruate instead of women only. So I would like to, so we have still some time, I would like to make you work in 2 small groups. So in 2 breakup rooms. I would like you to develop an intersectional advocacy campaign or policy proposal. Of course, the time is short, so I don't expect a full policy proposal, but maybe you could select a policy area, specific one, for example, more related to employment or education or access to health. So one sector, specific sector, and define your target audience. So if your, for example, if your policy or if your advocacy campaign is will target decision makers, civil society, private sector, or another audience, and draft a short advocacy message, for example, and also suggesting the implementation of this communication strategy. I mean, how would you implement that, or yes, in your community through for the target audience that you will identify. So I will write maybe this on the chat so I can stop sharing the screen because I don't see you. I'm being alienated. Okay. And okay, so like select policy area. Define target audience. Draft short advocacy. So I don't know if there are any questions on that or if it's clear. Maybe we are just like 9 people. So maybe Paolo, we can just divide us in 2 different breakups room, and maybe you and I, we can just be there for any kind of support if needed, but we can take 20 minutes for that, and then we can discuss this together.
Perfect. Then
Thank you.
I'm gonna start the breakout rooms. 2. Okay. Let's go.
Thank you, Paolo.
Perfect.
Thank you. So I don't know, I don't know which group would like to start, maybe just to share the brainstorming, the reasoning, and the proposal, and also how was this exercise, please. Go ahead.
We can go, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Then I'm gonna share the screen because we've written. If again. Okay. Ah, perfect. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So if the others from my group want to talk, feel free. Our policy area was menstrual health and sexual education, and we decided to all years of elementary school. The target audience is the municipality of a small city, 20,000 people. And the advocacy plan, we thought about, of course, an inclusive menstrual health education, sexual education program. Important is to all genders from the first year to the last, so throughout all the years of elementary school, of course, using the appropriate language for the development phases of the children. And we thought about different things that would be important to teach, respect other bodies and the body differences, the changes that can happen in our menstruating body, but also how to support menstruating bodies if you don't have a menstruating bodies, because we wanted to avoid the sense of secrecy and the taboos that can arise from it. We want an open and healthy discussion with trained professionals. And then we also thought about not giving just an anatomical speech, but also from an holistic point of view, so children can understand the psychological changes. And then we would like to have therefore an ongoing discussion, so not just one session, but throughout all the years, so people can just be educated and informed about it from an early age. And the municipality could also provide free starter menstrual kits to normalize early menstruation and promote empathy and gender equity.
Thank you very much, Alice. I think it's really interesting, actually, proposal. And I don't know if maybe Anna or Olga would like to add something also on the reasoning behind, why did you choose this specific topic and these specific objectives, maybe with the brainstorming that you have been doing together.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking at the very beginning around, I guess, things that have affected us. And we were all saying that the education that we received in schools was very limited. I mean, from my point of view, I had a 4-hour lesson on menstruation and that was it. And I went to a girls' school for 7 years, so it's kind of shocking. And how that kind of approach to things really creates this lack of understanding and secrecy element to it. And to kind of break that would be really interesting to learn it from an earlier age and just have it as an ongoing discussion. But the other thing that was also kind of really important was around not having it just from a scientific point of view, but also from a emotional and psychological point of view, because I think that's a huge part of menstruating, and it's not something that I understand is widely taught. Maybe that's changed now, but definitely not when we were younger. So yeah, it was a good exercise.
Thank you, Anna. Olga, would you like also to add something more? Or it's I mean, how do you wish, of course?
I think I agreed with everything, with nothing to add.
Thank you very much. So I would leave the floor to the other group.
Yeah, I can start if that's okay for my group. Well, we don't have any fancy, at least I don't have any fancy thing to share on screen, although I managed to copy the notes before exiting the group. So I guess we also discussed a little bit of, things that are, how to say, in our range of experience. So we have a short advocacy plan or policy proposal, which I will just read out. So it's implement culturally sensitive menstrual education and products in community centers, focusing on immigrants, addressing the needs of all genders and individuals with diverse identities. So there's also one aspect we discussed, which is more like, let's call it some online awareness campaign. And since maybe not everybody has access or chooses not to have access to social media and so on, this community center approach we also discussed to be able to reach different people. And what else did we discuss? Yeah, we discussed also like safe spaces to access information, which actually a toilet space like women's toilet can be an interesting thing to think about. Like imagine a toilet booth with access to information, QR codes, or any kind of way to share stories that people feel comfortable to actually scan the QR code or make a picture of that information and have this kind of low key access, or however to say. And maybe if somebody else would like to add something, we had some more points, I think. Let me see.
Yeah, I was in that group, and it is true that we focus on the cultural sensitivity topics, just because in some cultures a menstrual cup could be maybe a problem regarding religion and yeah, personal preferences. With other ones, maybe the pads, there is no infrastructure maybe in the place where they're staying, and throwing a pad in a public place is maybe something different. So we look really at the how to make it also more inclusive by having a research and asking about the different people, how they live in circumstances is, as we're talking about immigrants who are all in different circumstances, living situations, cultures, and religions, and everything that goes together with your personal identity and culture. And yeah, so I just added to that to amplify that was the target group, and also goes with the centers which we would like to approach. It would really be a very more individual approach, and very small instead of a big global or government, but really based on the different people in the centers and their specific situations.
Thank you very much. Other very interesting, actually, example. No, I mean, two different ways to. I mean, the groups, two different ways to approach. At the end, like the objective of education and raise awareness on the topic. No, so thank you for sharing that. Someone else would like to add any kind of comment, also like on the other group or whatever, like any comment. So thank you very much for that. Very interesting. And okay, so I would like share again, but it's finished. Okay. Just a very last reflection, common reflection, always on our beloved Mentimeter, just the last one. So please, if you can just share a final thought, reflecting on today's workshop, what is one key insight or action that you can take back to your youth work or community starting from tomorrow, from today, or whatever. So I share the Mentimeter. One moment. Okay. Do you see the screen with the answer, right? Do you see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will go through some of the, through the answers. So just to close our session, very interesting insights. Thank you. One key insight is that true inclusion starts with listening to diverse experiences, especially those shaped by intersecting identities. I will create free educational and illustrative content, ebooks, flyers, social media posts focused on teenagers. The menstrual education must start at earlier stages. More awareness and understanding for how the different aspects involved in each individual's lives will affect their experience of menstruation and how this will influence how best to support them. Sorry. Awareness of all the dimensions that intersect menstruation: social, political, gender, ecological. Interesting, what's ecological? Yes. Everyone should be included, not only menstruating people. Definitely. A key insight for me is that whether we do in educating others, it is important to integrate a mind-body perspective. Also important. Thank you for all these answers, really, and for stop sharing so I can see you properly. Okay. Thank you for this session and all the sharings. It has been really also interesting for me, actually. I don't know if you have any more comments, or then I will leave to Paola for closing the session.
Thank you, Serena. I think that with this introduction, with this overall perspective, we created a base and a structure for the following part of the training. And I collect this mutual co-creation of sharing our ideas and activities, possible thoughts, possible implementations on how to change the narrative regarding menstruation. I think it's so important. So thank you so much, and thank you to all the participants and to those that will watch it later. And yeah, I just feel that the topic of intersection is so important. It's so important right now, and it just gives us so many new insights into the way we can look also at menstruation and all the all the dimensions that it is that we can just look at it and create within. It's really important. So thank you. Are there any comments or messages to Serena or to all of us before we can close the meeting?
Yes, just wanted to thank you. It was a lot of interesting information, and for me, thank you so much.
Thank you, Olga. Thanks to all of you. Actually, it has been very constructive and common sharing, very interesting also for me. And I want to be in Chinchon, so enjoy the training and in its totality, for the contents, for the sharing, for the experience. So I'm sure it will be very nice experience. So enjoy it. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you,
Also, thank you
and see
Thank
you
for this
all soon.
interactive meeting.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. It was
Bye.
amazing. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.